Hello and welcome to another episode of the Opportunity Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Elfring, the head of marketing over here at Empire Flippers. And today I am speaking with Vincent Nguyen, the owner and founder of Growth Ninja. I've been friends with Vincent for close to 8 years at this point. He actually used to work at Empire Flippers before I ever came on board of the Empire. So him and I have been friends for many, many years. And he's one of the few people I truly trust when it comes to marketing. You'll hear our relationship throughout the whole podcast. We're laughing and joking, all that good stuff. But Vincent is a very talented marketer. So if you are looking for help with Facebook ads, there's a very good chance he can't help you because he will probably fire you and like not let you become a client. Because I used to send him tons of referrals and he regularly just would not accept them as clients. But if he does accept you as a client, Vincent is an absolute weapon when it comes to making Facebook ads work. So if he does accept you, you're in very good hands with Vincent. So with that said, let's get into this podcast talking about all things Facebook ads with Vincent Nguyen. I'll see you guys on the other side. Vincent Nguyen, I am glad you are finally here on this podcast. It only took us almost 8 years to make it happen, but I am glad you're here. For everyone that doesn't know who the Vincent Nguyen is, why don't you let my audience know?
Well, actually, it's interesting because the man who just asked me that question has my old job. I used to work as Empire Flippers marketing director way back in 2013 or 14 before I started my own company. In fact, I spent around 6 months living at Justin's house. We used to co-work on this big dining table in Davao, Philippines. And I think I even spent a couple months living at Joe's townhouse as well with Mike Rankovich, who I believe is still at Empire Flippers. So a lot of history with Empire Flippers. I owe them a ton for the way I approach business, even if it's been almost a decade now. And I still always have a lot of insights from Justin and Joe kind of just bouncing around my head whenever I approach a difficult problem. So thank you, you guys, if you're listening.
They don't listen since I've taken over. They refuse.
Like, if my voice ain't on it, I don't want to listen to that thing. What's the point?
I'll have to make sure I send this episode specifically to Justin so he hears me say that. He'll be like, no, I definitely listened to that. Yeah, man, it's really good to have you on here. You know, you have such a long history with us. Like, you and I have been friends almost as I joined EF. Yeah, even you were already gone
Right.
from the company by the time I came
Mhm.
about. But I've always really enjoyed your own business acumen, which I think translates well into the next phase of the question. So you used to work over at the Empire, and now you're doing your own thing with Growth Ninja. So tell my audience a little bit how that happened, how you grew this Facebook ad agency, and then we'll get into the nuts and bolts of your agency and what you do.
Yeah, so I mean, back when I was with Empire Flippers, I just remember I was at this event. I'm sure a lot of your listeners are kind of aware of the DC Dynamite Circle, but for those who aren't, they host a lot of in-person events, with their flagship event being in Bangkok. So I was at one of those in October of 2024, and that's when I was like bitten by the entrepreneurial bug, so to speak. You know, being around a few hundred entrepreneurs and you're one of the few employees there, I think that'll do it to you. And so I started Growth Ninja just a few months after that, January 2nd, 2015. So 9 years now. And Empire Flippers came on board as one of my first clients. And actually, the guy who gave me the idea for Growth Ninja came on as one of my first clients as well. And just kind of grew from there. It didn't take long to send my first 5-figure invoices out, and it quickly became a 6-figure company and then multi 6-figure company. And, I've been doing it for 9 years now. There was a long period of time where I basically wanted to do something different that quote unquote fed my soul. So I sort of like went on this journey where I did a bunch of random stuff, which I think you know some of the stories. Like I thought it'd be fun to be a bartender and
I
became a bar
remember
back.
that era of you specifically when you were living here in Saigon. You're trying to get someone to let you to be an unpaid cocktail bartender.
Yeah,
Please
man.
just let me serve drinks. I just want to learn.
Yeah,
I'm
because like
some basic guys
it
with
just
you. Just
seems
let
so
me like mix
fun.
drinks.
Just let me mix drinks. You don't have to give it to any customers. It's okay. Well, so it's funny because right before COVID, I approached one of the best cocktail lounges in Arizona, basically. It was a newly opened location that was a sister company to like the Cocktail Lounge in downtown Phoenix. I'm like, I have no in-person job experience. I've only ever worked online, but I've read these books here. I've listened to these interviews with these influencers in this space. So I would just, I would just love it if I could work here. And I got a call back a couple hours later. They're like, "You still want the job?" So I lasted there 2 whole nights. All of my friends had betting pools going on. They gave me way too much credit. The lowest bet was 2 weeks, so even that person missed big time. But basically, I spent the last 2, 3 years maybe in this sort of semi-retirement, and so that meant basically working with like the smallest amount of clients possible and just kind of doing anything but Facebook ads. And then as of I think September, October of 2023 was when I exited semi-retirement. And since then, I've already revived 3 multi-million-dollar ad campaigns that were pretty much dead in the water, and now they're profitable again. I started scaling a client that went through like half a dozen agencies. They were spending like 30 grand a month. Now they're spending $300,000 per month with me or more, and profitably, might I add. Now I'm spending a couple 100,000 per month on YouTube ads, which is something I've never even done before. I literally just started dabbling with that 2, 3 months ago as well. And yeah, it's just been a fun journey, man. And Facebook ads, I just have a different perspective on it now that I have, we've talked about this privately, but now that I want like a family and stuff, that just kind of helped me get out of that sort of like childish, constant daydreaming of random bartending dreams. And it kind of like in a sort of cheesy Hallmark movie way brought me back to what I've been doing all along. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. So well, let's talk about this $1 million ad campaign you just brought up. I mean, you're one of, if not like, you're definitely in the top five of most skilled meta advertisers I know. I always say you're the laziest, most successful internet marketer I know because of the retirement thing. Like you just like make money happen, and you're like, I don't want to be part of any of this. Versus everyone else seems like they're going gray trying to make it happen, right? So talk to me about this $1 million campaign. What did you do to bring it back from the dead?
Yeah, so the biggest frustration I always had with that particular campaign for that particular client was that there's not a lot of work being done on the front end or back end stuff. It was a lot of like relying on the brand name. And, up till now, we've literally spent, millions and millions and millions of dollars on that campaign. And, sorry, I gotta say for the audience, I am gonna be protective about the niche and industries that I talk about just because sort of a short story to give you context on that. Just a couple weeks ago, I was talking to a client and they're like, dude, there's this freaking guru that we barely sort of worked with sort of peripherally, and this dude keeps going on these stages talking about how he revolutionized their business and now we're making all this money. So what happened since that started happening? All these copycats popped up. I mean, come on, if you listen to the Empire Flippers podcast, you know the whole
Oh,
issue with copycats and
oh,
anonymizing,
100%,
right?
100%.
So
I mean,
I
you
don't
and
have
I
to go
were
into that, but
you and I were talking about our own frustrations with our own vendors we've used. Like, there's this guy, I won't bring up his name, but he did like really shoddy SEO work for us, and he uses us in all these presentations now, even though I
yeah,
fired
yeah,
him. It's like, dude, we are not a case study. Like, if
right.
anyone
And they're
ever
taking
comes
credit
up
for
to me,
any
I am
future
telling them,
success.
do
Yeah.
not hire you.
Right. Right. It's funny.
Yeah,
That's how that these
I
gurus
get
work
it.
is they literally will now take credit for everything you do going forward, even if they had nothing to do with it. So it's funny because I'll just wrap this story quickly because I know it's sort of a tangent. But literally 2, 3 hours after that conversation with my client who was just sharing that story with me, I got on a call with this prospect who was like, "Yeah, I do this, this, and that, and I'd love to see if we could work together." And he's like, "Yeah, I acquired this business because I went to this conference and there was this person talking on stage about this other business in this space, and they shared, all the numbers and how they did it in their funnels. So I went home and I looked at businesses for sale to see if I could copy what they're doing." And I'm like, well, there we freaking go. So there's a clear example of someone who literally just did that thing that my client was talking about. So, just to wrap this up in a nice, neat bow, that's why I'm going to be saying vague things like personal development space and course. I'm not going to be like, check out the URL at www dot, ripusoff.com. But yeah, to go back, and if the listeners can't already tell, I think my ADHD is already quite apparent. So I'll try my
I'm
best
trying to
to.
rope you back in. Let's get back into the
Yes.
campaign. What did you do, Vincent?
What
Look at my
did I do?
hands. Focus.
Oh, there we go. have a
Now
side
you're
hustle
on
here
it.
that can bring us back. So the biggest thing, Greg, was not on the technical Facebook ad side. It was actually on the sales page side. And the biggest change was basically I told the client, look, we've basically exhausted pretty much everybody who's willing to buy this in this current iteration of this particular product. The sales page needs a lot more to be done. Like, we need to really just focus on conversion rates because it's not a cost per click problem. Cost per click is great. And if we were still able to maintain the conversion rates of like before, then yeah, we'd be absolutely printing still. But the sad fact is you can't just rely on your name right now because like we've already sold to the quote unquote lowest hanging fruit, right? Because if you spend millions on Facebook ads, you are hitting like tens of millions of people every single time you spend $1 million, or even like hundreds of millions because we do target globally. And so I told him, you need a better sales page. He paid a company to do a quote unquote better sales page, which ended up performing far worse. So basically, we're printing if they're getting a 1% sales conversion rate, so 100 visitors, you get one sale out of that. This new and improved sales page was converting at 0.2%. And I'm like, okay,
Beautiful.
I'm not a sales page person. I am very adamant about only doing Facebook ads for clients, which we could talk about later. That's a big mistake I see agencies. They do way too much and they end up bottlenecking themselves, right? But for this guy, I'm like, okay, well, I have a client who I know has an 8% sales conversion rate on his sales page for cold traffic. And it's in a very competitive niche. So let me ask them if I could repurpose this. So I did. I asked them, hey, in exchange for X, Y, and Z, can I reuse this sales page? It's going to be in a completely different industry. And so I took that sales page and then I repurposed it for my client. And then I bundled up a couple of, I bundled up 6 bonus specials to be exact. And so if they bought this product, not only are they getting this product for $99, they're also getting this other thing that's a $35 value they sell. They're also getting this book that's published on Amazon and all these other places for like $10. And then they're getting these other resources that were already created. So just creating that sales page, putting those special offers on there really just skyrocketed the conversion rate. And I mean, yesterday, I have a note here. We literally spent $56,000 on that campaign yesterday, like just in one single
Wow.
day. So that was not happening for the last, year and a half or so. I considered it a totally dead offer because we've been running it for 4 years or so, probably at that point. And just that tweak right there just basically resurrected that entire campaign. Now it's a winner. And like that model is something that I'm going to roll out for other clients as well, where we literally just, give more upfront outside of just the core offer itself.
I like that, man. I often talk about the offer being like the most important part of marketing. Like, you have a good offer and bad marketing, you will still make money. Like, if you have a bad offer, the marketing's got to be really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's good. In terms of the landing page design, outside of the bonuses, which, obvious, it should increase the value there. So it should increase the opt-in, right? Did you do anything else? Was there like any design elements or styles of copy that was making a big impact here that you did to the landing page?
So I think the original sales page just did a wonderful job of, first of all, when you first open the page, it does a great job of like, okay, who am I, right? So for the client, that was easy because it was like, okay, well, he has millions of followers on this social media platform, millions of followers on this social media platform. His email list is X 100,000 big. So we did a lot of establishing credibility and talking about the books he's published. So much like the original sales page, their guy did the same thing. I'm X, Y, and Z, and you might have seen me on these stages here. And then it goes into the results that they've gotten the clients, before and after photos, things like that. And then it went into like more testimonials, screenshots of Facebook ad comments where people are like saying, yeah, this absolutely works for me. And so literally when I put up that new sales page, I went into the current ad comments and took screenshots that previous customers were saying to use it as proof, and obviously testimonials and stuff like that. So it was credibility, bonus offers, and then testimonials to show why this works, and then a little bit more about how it works with a little bit more testimonials kind of sprinkled here and there. and then just more talking about here's what's going to happen if you buy this product. So I think just that compared to if you saw the bare bones original, I ask this all the time, like how the heck did we spend as much as we did with that super bare bones page? Like it's just night and day. And I think a lot of people tend to just kind of think the hard work is done once they put up that sales page. And like I know I'm guilty of that kind of complacency too. I mean, I think we all are. But every now and then if you just kind of step outside of that usual routine of doing business as always and sort of saying, okay, well, if I'm comfortable giving away this much quote unquote for free as a bonus, then you're probably on to something really good. You're probably on to something that's going to increase conversion rates. Because when I brought this up to my client and said, hey, I'm thinking of doing this sort of bundle, and I'm not going to charge anything extra for it because before it was just an upsell, like a one-click upsell situation with these offers, basically. His first reaction was like, "Whoa, you're going to give them all of that?" I'm like, "Great, yes." Like, I'm glad that kind of scared you because it's not going to cost that client anything to do that. These are all
Right.
digital assets. There's no additional cost of goods sold, no eating of your margins. And you're probably not going to sell this in very much volume anyway. But if this even increases conversion rates by like 10, 20, 15%, and with the amount that we're spending, it's a freaking no-brainer. You know what I mean?
Oh, massive. Yeah. I've seen that even work in some e-commerce example. Like if you're in e-commerce, I don't recommend you just go out and do this, but you
Right.
could test it. But there's a guy I know, I can't remember the exact product, but basically he worked with his e-commerce store. They had this one product, it was their best seller by far. And he made it free because he knew in order to use the product, you had to buy all this other stuff that they had. So he was cross selling them, right? The variation was only in a certain color, like the red version of this, which was their best seller. So they gave away the red one, but you had to buy all this other
Dang,
stuff to make it work. And it went gangbusters. Like it did an
that's clever.
incredible job. So yeah, it can work with e-commerce too. Obviously, always be testing, but yeah. So with your clients, do you mostly do digital assets, like digital courses, stuff like that, or are you doing physical
Yeah,
products as well?
that's sort of my bread and butter because back when I first started Growth Ninja, and like earlier you were joking that I'm like the laziest marketer, and that's true. That helps
Hey,
me
it's a
massively.
compliment. It's an absolute
It
compliment.
is, and I take it as
The
such
laziest marketers always make the most money.
because it forces you to be efficient, dude. Like the way I think about it, it's like if you're doing all of the things, you kind of don't think about why you're doing it. While everything I do, I'm always thinking about like, does it actually deliver value? Like, is this actually something we need to do? It is a focus on digital because early on, I did do a lot of e-commerce, and what always ended up happening was return on ad spend was insane. Like it was always like when what I always like to ask clients is what's your return on ad spend number? Where if we're hitting that consistently, literally spend as much as physically possible, right? And with e-commerce, it was always meeting or exceeding that number for the most case. But what would always end up happening is they would end up running to bottlenecks, such as, oh, you're crushing it, but now we're out of inventory. Now we're going to wait, like, let's pause this for several weeks or months while we get more inventory and then pause it. And then, okay, we're ready. And then you do it again. And then they pause. It's like, this isn't worth my time to constantly do this. Like, I'd rather have a digital product where return on ad spend targets are way lower because, it's all profit for the most part. And there is no actual scarcity of inventory. And so, a little tip. I mean, I have a lot of friends who run agencies and stuff. They're always asking me, how am I doing it as a solopreneur? Why don't I have a big team? How do I like choose clients? To me, it's very obvious. And it does tie into like, hey, being lazy helps me because I know that if I'm doing all of the things, such as funnels, email marketing, all that garbage, it's going to take a lot of time. And that's going to self select some clients that aren't going to make you that much money. Because for me, I only invoice based on gross revenue that I generate for clients. And I don't invoice for clients that I don't make profits for because I like to sleep well at night. So I'm not going to waste my personal time running campaigns for clients that don't make any money, and I don't want to lose them any money. So I'm only going to self select for people who already have funnels that are working. I'm going to self select for people who have a good email follow up sequence. I'm going to say no to clients who don't have any of that and ask if I could do that because I know that if I had to do all that, that's kind of spending a lot of time on these campaigns for like a very low probability of successfully printing them money. I'd rather work with someone who's already running Facebook ads, they're already doing it profitably, and they're looking for someone to scale further than they ever were able to do. before. Most agencies don't do that. Most agencies say yes to every single client that wants to come on board, and they'll say yes to, yes, we'll do your funnels. Yes, we'll do your emails. And then they have to hire all these contractors that eat up their margins. And they suddenly have this big team to manage. And then suddenly all the campaigns across the board suffer because they can't be everywhere all at once. While I can be everywhere all at once. And this is actually an insight that I learned from Joe Magnotti himself early on. When I first started Growth Ninja, he basically told me, like, dude, be okay with leaving money on the table. And that has served me so well. I don't know if what he had in mind specifically when he said that, but I just took that and ran with it. I leave money on the table all the time, and that allows me to look at other opportunities that make way more for way less. You know what I mean? So shout out to Hot Money Joe. I don't know if he still goes by that nickname or not, but
I think it's still in his email signature. Yeah, so I think he still goes by it. But yeah, I mean, that's good advice, like in general for entrepreneurship too. Like, for example, I was just
mm,
talking to a guy the other day. I just say, I think like a $4.5 million e-commerce store right around there. Like, really cool business, really, really
yeah,
cool. And they were starting to like do all this crazy stuff, like build an app, this tech stack. That it's an e-commerce store selling like one or two products. Like, they don't
mm,
really need all this stuff. It's kind of a distraction, and they really wanted to get up to this big number for an exit. Like, well, why? Why do you want to do that? And they're like,
right.
well, I don't know.
I don't know.
Right? Like,
I just isn't
like,
that what we're supposed to
well,
do?
like, would $4.5 million like make you financially free with what you need? They're like, well, yeah. Like, well, you should probably sell right now. Like, if that's the
Hmm.
case, like, why risk it? You know, leave some money on the table. And buyers, like, in general, when they buy a business, they want to see some money left on the
Yeah, they
table,
want
right? Because they want to buy
opportunity.
something that's going to grow. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think in general that's good advice in multiple arenas. I want to skip to this question since we were talking about the laziness and the mistakes that agencies make. So for you, for everyone listening, I used to recommend Vincent all the time, but every time I did, he would never take on my clients. And he came to me a few months ago and said, "I'm lowering my standards, Greg. Bring me business." Like, okay. So I started referring people out to him, and one of my
This
good
was
good
the
buddies.
this is what I unofficially called the exiting semi-retirement special.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, well, if this is not going to flat out reject them, I'll do it. I remember before I started doing that, I went to your website. I talked to the Vincent chatbot you have on there. It's like, do you already have a Facebook ad campaign running? So I said, yes. Like, is it profitable? I said, no. Like, sounds like you're not ready for me. I gotta like go back later. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be terrible. But anyway, so I referred you some business owners. You actually accepted them. And I think you've now officially fired all of them. So talk to me about why you fire some of your clients. How does this happen?
So there's a few different reasons. One of the most recent ones was a bummer because I'm a huge fan of their physical product. In fact, obviously listeners listening to this audio, but on video, Greg, you could see one of the products there. Don't say it out loud because I don't want to take credit for any of their successes. And
You
basically,
know this
I
is going on
was.
YouTube, right?
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh well.
How
Hey,
much research have you done on this podcast, Vincent?
almost none. Not gonna lie to you. I don't. I'm notorious for not ever reading or listening to like business podcasts. I only listen to two podcasts, and they're both comedy podcasts. So,
Well, I'm
but
sure one of them is called The Opportunity, but go on.
but one of the recent firings was a product I'm a big fan of. And the reason was because I didn't feel like I was delivering value. That's simple. Like, I thought they were doing a great job on the ad side. My metrics weren't beating theirs. Like, I just didn't want them to be spending money and not see a profit for it and then build them on top of that. So that's literally what I emailed them. I said, hey guys, like, thank you so much for the opportunity. Here's my honest thoughts on it. Like, you guys are doing a great job. You guys are, like, obviously trying to scale as much as you can, but I feel like with my campaigns, I'm not moving the needle to a level that I want for all of my clients. So I'm just gonna, end it now. And people respect that kind of authenticity. I just got a message on Facebook a little bit earlier this morning from a buddy of mine, and he's like, "Hey, just tell me about what happened." And he just told me about how much he respects your integrity, and I wasn't surprised at all. And I'm like, "Yeah, I just told him honestly
Of
what I
course
thought."
he would. My integrity is amazing.
I have the
Famous
best integrity out
100%
of everyone I know.
Vincent.
Most humble and integrity ever. Oh wow, that didn't even make grammatical sense, but it's okay. And to talk about the ones that I fired that had a different reasoning, one of them was because, I basically have clients where I am just huge, like, I'm just a huge geek about what they do. I have a personal interest in it. Like, if you have a pickleball something, then I'm probably into it. If you have a tennis something or like a gaming something, I'm going to be thinking about it all the time, coming with all these ideas that I normally don't do for clients. Like, I might say, hey, here's a really cool funnel. And hell, I might even take charge of this thing because I'm personally interested in it. So some clients I'll fire because they're in an industry that's, they're doing great and they do great work, but I can't come to the computer with my best self because I'm not personally invested in it. In fact, no offense if you're listening to this, but some industries I just kind of dread. Like, it's not fun. And so most agencies might just outsource that to a junior and, get subpar results and just take a retainer or whatever. Like, sure, cool, do your thing, but that's not how I operate. Like, I'm not going to bill if I'm not doing great work, if I'm not getting good results. And so I don't want to be in this position where I'm doing poorly for or not optimally for a client and then like be slower on communication because I'm dreading, that kind of thing and all that stuff. That's kind of like not the standard I hold myself up to. So I'm going to like basically fire myself slash them to make sure that I'm not a negative experience for them. You know what I mean? And pretty much everyone always appreciates the honesty, and they often will try to get me on a phone call afterwards to plead me to stay on
She's
board.
going to come back. Let me still pay you money. Yeah, I
But
think
I
one of
just,
the referrals
yeah,
I
just
sent you was one of those guys.
yeah, and great guys. Like, I think what they're doing is wonderful, but I'm just like, look, I'm not in this for the money. I'm gonna turn down clients that will offer 5 figures per month if there's not that alignment. You know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
just really enjoy doing what I want to do. So it's like, why would I say yes to that if I'm feeling like unhappy every time I open up or have to start opening up a campaign? I'd rather just have a few amount of clients that pay me a lot of money who I'm excited to work with and I'm excited to like brainstorm and do all these crazy ideas for than a lot of clients that make me a lot of money, but then there's going to be a few that like give me that weird feeling in my stomach, you know what I mean? So I'm just in a
Yeah,
fortunate
yeah.
position where I'm able to select for that. But I think if even businesses that are just starting out or haven't figured out that sort of factor yet, it still is helpful to kind of gut check yourself and sort of aim a little bit higher when you try to find businesses. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I like everything you said there. The lifestyle approach, I think, makes a lot of sense. Like you and I have talked a lot about business, and I always overcomplicate things. Like I just like think through every contingency, and you're just like, "What are you doing?" Just like
Yeah, that's
turn the
so
on,
obvious whenever
like,
we talk about stuff.
turn the
Yeah,
on button on.
yeah.
So yeah,
We'll talk about business stuff, and you're like talking about like you kind of it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. You think in terms of like decades and stuff, which is a very strong skill set. I don't. I don't do that at all. Like I think in terms of like, okay, well, you should
30
have them in the back
seconds.
of your head. It shouldn't stop you. You know what I mean? From like doing what has to
Yeah,
happen right now in order to take the first two, three, four, five, six steps on that 10-year plan. Because otherwise, you play that game forever. You could keep
for
on
sure,
adding on
for
to these
sure.
things, and then what ends up happening is you don't have this asset because you are still planning. It's like, what? You don't have to do that right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, yeah. I've now learned, like with my team, I never show them my full plans anymore usually because it just overwhelms
Yeah,
them.
overwhelm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, like, so I just show them like parts of the diagram, like as we get further, more is revealed from the fog of war. It's like they're playing a game of StarCraft. Let's switch gears a little bit here to talk about the actual mechanics of what you're doing with an ad. So I'm a client, I come on board, you don't fire me, so I pass stage one. What is your go-to formula for ad campaign success? Do you have a methodology, or is it kind of very customized and bespoke based on the client?
It's mostly the latter, but I mean, there's going to be things. So I'll give you an example, right? There's this prospective client right now who wants to work with me and they asked for an audit. So I looked through the ad account and it was run incredibly old school. It was run the same way that I would have ran ads back in like probably 2016 when I first started, right? And basically with them, it would have been a complete teardown because they're not, for example, testing out Advantage Plus on at the campaign level. And for those listening who don't know what that is, basically Facebook ads has gotten really good at audience targeting themselves. And one of the biggest winners, almost universally, that I have for all of my clients, even before Advantage Plus came along, was targeting entire countries. So if you're selling, I don't know, let's say I'm looking around my house for a inspiration here. Let's say you're selling a high-end headphone, like a Sennheiser or something like that. This episode is not sponsored by Sennheiser.
Not
You
yet.
might,
They can reach out to
not
us.
yet, with this episode in particular. So you might think, okay, well, we obviously have to do audience targeting that is specifically towards audiophiles and people who have, high-end speakers and like brands like Sennheiser and the Bose and, insert luxury brand here. Yes, absolutely. That should be part of your split testing. But more often than not, literally targeting the entirety of the United States and leaving the placements on automatic, which means it'll go on Instagram, it'll go on Facebook, it'll go on right hand side, it'll go on newsfeed, yada yada yada, and then not adding any audience targeting, no interest, no lookalike audiences, like none of that, and just letting Facebook do its thing, even on new ad accounts, that crushes a lot of the times. Not always, like I said, that's something to test, but the vast majority of my spend is always on an open audience like that. I just air quotes for those listening in audio. And Advantage Plus is basically that, except they add a little bit more of their magic sauce. And so one of the first things I always test is, okay, old school targeting of open but not Advantage Plus at the campaign level, so ad set level, and then lookalike audiences of previous customers. And then, interest targeting that if I was selling headphones, okay, what does that mean? They're going to be interested in other brands. They could be interested in music, obviously. They're going to be interested in this, and that. And then have a bunch of those and see how they do. And actually, absolutely step one is to set up some sort of attribution system like a high roast or a triple whale because Facebook ads, let's just say their reporting is not very accurate
The
for a lot of
grades,
reasons.
yeah.
We could get into that, but that's going to be a whole thing. So set up attribution, make sure that you can account specifically for every ad set and every ad, and you know exactly how much money it brought in. And then once you've tested the audience side, obviously you're now on to the ad creative side. So people like to universally assume video does best. In my experience, from almost 10 years of doing this, it's very rare for video to be the dominant ROI winner for most of my clients. I mean, there's really only like two or three in my entire history running campaigns where video was
Hmm.
the clear cut, always winner to go. So I would always say, okay, you could test out video, but doing the lazy Vincent method, which I would recommend, it's a lot easier for you to create static images. Use a Canva or outsource that to a graphic designer. Video is hard. Like forget about editing, like just coming up with the scripts and stuff is difficult. And so you don't have to put all your resources into video only. Test out the images. So now you're testing out audiences, you're testing out Advantage Plus, you're testing out the ad creative side. And then that basically gives you that foundation. And you don't want to just turn things off right away. This is kind of like the hardest part about scaling Facebook ads when you're spending hundreds and thousands of dollars per month or trying to get there. Most people don't have discipline. Like they will think, oh, well, I started this campaign and well, it's been 24 hours. I should turn this off if it's not working, right? It's like, yeah, sometimes if you've run enough ads to know that that's how your audiences work and they tend to buy really quickly via Facebook ads specifically, and you know that there's no lift in return on ad spend, like someone who clicked today and buys 5 days from now, then sure. But a lot of people will get spooked if they're used to like these consistent return on ad spends, and for whatever reason, these couple of days was poor. They might turn off that campaign and completely put up something new. But you have to look at the historical data. So if I'm looking at the historical data and I know that these campaigns are doing well, I'm not going to turn them off at the first sign of trouble. Like I'm going to go, okay, well, what's the typical return on ad spend lift? Does that bring us into our targets? What's going to happen if I let this run for a few more days later? And in the meantime, just run more tests with a smaller budget elsewhere. So to kind of briefly summarize the answer to your question, there are some steps that'll get you to like basically the very beginning. But then once you're actually scaling significantly, it becomes a lot of like staying disciplined, going based off just data alone and not like fear and emotions. And then just letting the data guide you on what to do, what to scale, and what not to scale. So it ends up becoming a whole thing. You know what I mean? But the beginning is very
Yeah.
similar.
I like I don't know how you feel about it, but me personally, I like the fact that Facebook has gotten so good at the targeting aspect where you can
Yeah,
focus a lot more on the copywriting and creative. Dude, I
exactly. Yeah.
remember like back in gosh, in like 2010 or no, the 2012, I think, when you still do like scraping people's UIDs, they're like, hey, Greg, it's your
Hmm.
birthday. Here's like a Teespring shirt, right?
Yeah.
Like the campaigns back then, what a mess. But so
Yeah.
I'm curious with now that targeting does lean towards broad, and you mentioned one thing that the static image tends to convert better than the video, which surprises me. But in general, when you are thinking about the copywriting and the creative aspect, like what are you doing here? Like, are you doing long form copy on the Facebook news feed, or like you don't care about that? Like, what kind of imagery are you using? Do you have like a system when it comes to that? Like, how do you go about thinking about the creative and the copy?
So if you look at the Facebook
Nice.
ad library, so if you look at the ad library, a lot of the ads are going to be short form, right? It tends to be one or two sentences, and that's the type of stuff that you're going to see on all these blog articles and stuff like that. Keep it short. People don't have attention span. So yeah, if you suck at ad copy, then absolutely they're not going to read your drivel. But most of my best campaigns are pretty darn long. Like I don't even know how many paragraphs. I take as long as I need to basically present the problem and the solution, and then say, well, here it is. You know what I mean? So a lot of my stuff does definitely go long form. I test both. Typically with short form, that usually works best if I'm doing some sort of like limited offer that has like a deadline. Like if I'm saying tomorrow's the last day to get whatever sign up, then absolutely, yeah, that tends to crush the long form stuff. But when it comes to evergreen campaigns, it's usually some sort of story that I'm telling through the ads and trying to like just sort of stand out from everyone else because most people just don't write strong ad copy. So if you have like a pretty good background with copy, don't be afraid to use it. Don't feel like brevity is the way to go for ad copy because people do read the ads. And typically with the long form stuff, I see much higher click through rate than the short form stuff. So,
That makes sense. My school of thought on it is, I mean, it depends on the medium, but I always say it should be as long as it needs to be. So if that's
mhm.
10,000 words, 10,000 words, it is what it is. Like
Yeah.
literally have I used to write it for EF. It was like, I think 18,000 or 20,000 words of the industry report. And there was all these other competitors that had these just like scraped listings of all these other brokers and just like one or two paragraphs that said nothing versus mine was like super deep, like this is this, this is that, this is that. It basically
Hmm.
killed all the other industry reports, right? It was like 5 times the length of everyone else's too. So yeah,
Yep.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah,
When
I
you're
mean,
running
if it's good, people are
campaigns,
gonna.
oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, I was gonna say if it's good, people are gonna read it. Like, there's this magazine that I just learned about called Cigar Aficionado, and you and I have talked about this privately a couple
Yes,
times.
yes, too
And
many
like
times.
this, this magazine completely changed the way I view like magazines in general. Like, this thing aims for like over 100 pages. The interviews they do is like super long, and I'm not even like really the target audience. But I like when I'm reading it, I'm like, dude, this is like so freaking good. Like most competitors would have cut it in half because they think, oh, this generation of people, they don't have attention span, which is partially true. But if it's good enough, then you've kind of got their attention. Like I just don't know why people are so stuck on the keep things short. Even when it comes to like emails, you and I talked about this just last month, I think, where we have different approaches when it comes to cold emails. And back when I used to send a lot of those, I got like pretty darn good responses, like well above industry averages. And I typically just make them kind of long, just say whatever I actually want to say, and not go, well, I should remove this to keep it under some arbitrary length that some blog article or podcast set out. You know what I mean? So that doesn't
I
mean
don't
you
think
should
we
just throw
totally
everything at it, but
Yeah. I don't think we totally disagree on the email thing. Though I will have you know, my brevity form has gotten an 18% positive rate so far, positive response rate with the emails I've been open from a cold email
there we
campaign I'm
go.
doing. So
Hey,
both can work. I think your approach works better for the sniper approach, right?
right, the sniper approach for sure, but also I think we're probably agreeing in the sense of like it's not really about the length at all. The length, I guess,
Yeah.
the length is kind of irrelevant. I'm not saying always go
Yeah.
long or always go short. It's like disregard the length, take into the context of what you're doing, and just like you said, use as many words as you need to, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, don't fill
Exactly.
it up for the sake of it because oh, I heard in this podcast, long form is the way to go. Just to repeat, whoever's listening, I'm not saying that's the takeaway. The takeaway is not go long for the sake of going long. You know.
So we're going to do a YouTube short of this podcast, and I'm going to use 11 Labs to AI your voice, where it says every one of your Facebook ads needs to be 5,000 words long, signed by
At
Vincent Nguyen
least.
over at Growth Ninja. At the very least,
At least 5,000. If you're not doing 6,000, you're kind of lazy, but it's okay.
marketer. Oh, so with this copy thing, I'm curious on your thoughts on this. When you're running your ads on Meta with Facebook, I'm assuming in those campaigns you're also doing Instagram, but Instagram doesn't feel like as the same opportunity for length of copy, or am I just looking at it in the wrong way? Like, what do you do in that scenario?
So I don't break it out. Like I don't go, okay, this campaign's only going to Facebook, this campaign's only going to Instagram. Therefore, they both get different copy. But yeah, I don't break it out. They're both going to the same one. So like I said earlier, when we talk about campaign structure, Advantage plus placement is like one of my favorite things where they just handle the placements for you. So this is at the ad set level, and not breaking it down granularly. Because every time you do that, like in my experience, you can do the breakdown and see, oh wow, well, this is saying mobile is doing so much better than desktop, and like clearly the way to go then is to exclude all desktop traffic, right? Like for whatever reason, almost anytime I do that, I don't really see the rewards in that, and it ends up like usually losing towards the main one that had them both. Do I have a theory for that? Not really. Like it doesn't really matter. You could test for it and see if that's the case for you, but I definitely wouldn't spend all day worrying about that. And most people aren't even spending enough budget to even like have the luxury of breaking it down that much anyway. Like if you do that kind of test, you're kind of taking away from all your other stuff, right? If you're working with limited budget. So I wouldn't worry about it. Just focus on the fundamentals. Make sure you have a good sales page, obviously, and a good offer and a good product.
Yeah. Yeah. So you would recommend still doing what you can with the copy. And I would imagine also in the creative, like the creative itself should be able to say what the offer is in some fashion. So if
Right.
your long copy isn't shown on the other meta placements, then it's still clear what you're selling.
Right. And don't default to the whole, I know what's popular right now, especially in biz ops, is like, oh, photo of you or influencer, and then like a solid color background with text on it. Like, sure, you could do that, but let's just say I don't do that for any of my clients. None of my clients do that. Like, I'm not using that template format.
I just wrote a long form e-commerce sales letter. I'm gonna run some ads to. So maybe I'll put a picture of you and me with a like a red background, even though you're not even part of the offer, and just see how it works.
Use me as a case study for something that I've never used.
But I really want to do like the anti-guru ads where I'm standing in front of a Lambo talking about selling you your e-commerce store, but I just like flat out say like this is a rented Lambo. Like, and I didn't even rent it. This guy did. I just asked him if I could stand in front of it for like 10 minutes. Like that's like part of the ad. I think it could work because like so many internet marketers are so jaded to this guru.
I mean, that's kind of like I'm a fan of that type of like you and I are both the same sense of humor. We kind of like nonsensical like stuff,
Whoa, 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 whoa,
and
whoa, 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 whoa. I'm a very serious person, Vincent.
oh, that's right. I forgot. New year, new you. So in that case, I'm only gonna speak for myself. I love that kind of stuff because it's like that stands out in the sea of like offers. And if you're just constantly joining on about how awesome you are, it's kind of like, okay, dude, you take yourself so seriously. Like, you know what I mean? But if you go out there and do something like that anti guru ad idea, that's like hilarious. And that still gets the same message out there. You still get to talk about what you do, except it's just framed in a different way. I'd actually would love to share one of my ad copy that's really working right now that is super different. But again, trying to avoid the copycat things. But it's like, it's so out of left field that it's almost kind of funny that someone would even think to do that. But then obviously it's not just all nonsense and funny left field stuff. It ties directly into the ad copy in a way that even if I just deleted the first few paragraphs, it'll still work. But because it has that context, it kind of gives strength to the other part. Like try to look at what your competitors are doing and kind of mentally judge it and go, what don't you like about that? Like this is where you get to be judgmental and go, oh well, that kind of sucks for this, and that reason. What would have gotten my attention? And then just kind of work backwards that way. That's kind of how I get my best work. Is like, okay, tapping into the sort of judgmental side that we all have. What would you have liked them to do? What would have actually made you stop and go, holy crap, that's a good offer or a good idea, and then you implement it yourself. And sorry again, I can't get more specific than that. I'm trying to avoid the whole copycat thing. So
No worries. I'll find out what it is after this, and I'll run an ad with that after I copy you. So we'll get it done. Don't you worry. So when it comes to running these Facebook ads, tell me, like, Facebook has changed a lot over the last couple of years with the targeting and the Advantage Plus, all that good stuff.
Mm,
What are some common myths that people are still doing that you just think are completely wrong? You should not be doing this. Like, stop today, you're
mm.
losing money. Or do you have any of those?
I mean, dude, there's this all the time. Every time I audit a Facebook ad account, there's always like people are always missing the fundamentals. So I guess it's basically like just remember the fundamentals. It's very obvious. Like there's no hidden silver bullet stuff, but yet every time I audit an ad account, it's like, wait, what the heck is going on there? Like for example, stuff like using the same ad ID. So that way, if you're running all these different campaigns with the same creative, they all share the same likes and engagements, comments and shares. Like I just audited an ad account where they're not even doing that. They're literally running the same creative for every campaign, which is also questionable. Like obviously test different creatives. But if you're gonna run the same creatives across 10 freaking campaigns, and then each campaign has three different audiences, so that's 30, and then you're spending thousands per day, the least you could do is use the same ad ID so that first of all, if you're moderating comments, you don't have to open 30 different links. They're all in one place. But then also now you could send that ad link to your current customers and say, hey, it'd be a huge help if you could share your experience with me on this ad here for the future generation of customers or students or whatever. And then now you have this ad that has thousands of likes with all these comments and all these shares, and you're getting basically testimonials in there too. And now you can screenshot those testimonials and ad comments and throw back to the sales page thing. You could put that right on there. So that's like stuff that people don't really think about. And but that's just like the basic fundamentals in my opinion. And the other thing is like, I feel like this is just one-on-one stuff, but it's just weird because it feels like it needs to be said based on all the audits I've done. Like constantly test audiences, even if Advantage Plus does well for you. Constantly test video versus images, even if one particular medium has been working well for you. Constantly test different hooks for the videos. If you have a video that has the main meat that's been working well, now I could do something silly on the front of the video that's like some sort of hook, you know, and then always like test out Advantage Plus versus the old school method of open targeting. Like you shouldn't get complacent and just go, well, this has historically always worked, therefore this is universally always gonna be the best going forward. It's like, okay, I guess, but like you're gonna leave a lot of money on the table when you could have literally just duplicated that thing, made the smallest tweak with a smaller budget, and then see what happens. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
and the
for
biggest
sure.
thing too is don't take for granted the attribution, the importance of setting up something like Hyros or Triple Whale to make sure you have actual attribution. Because what they do is they integrate with your sales payment processor, like a Stripe. And then what happens is it's not triggered based on like a visit of a page, because some people will have the purchase pixel set up where if you refresh that, it'll just keep on triggering the purchase event. So like one customer could count for like six purchases, and
Yes.
Shopify and stuff make it easier so that doesn't happen. But a lot of people have these old school systems. So Hyros will only integrate and call a successful purchase if Stripe or PayPal or whatever you're using says, hey, here's the purchase. And then it'll match it to that exact customer based on email and IP address. And then you can see all the customer journey. You can see what landing page you landed on. It'll tell you what at the campaign, ad set, and ad level on your numerous channels, where did they come from? And if you're running different ad networks like YouTube ads, Facebook ads, and stuff like that, there's not going to be any double dipping. Because if you, for example, are a customer and then you clicked on their Facebook ad, or let's say you even just saw the Facebook ad, but you didn't click, and then you saw the YouTube ad and bought, well, guess what? Facebook's going to say, natively speaking, they count the click-through conversions and view-through conversions. So people who clicked the ad and purchased, and with the latter being people who just saw the ad and then purchased. And then they're going to take one sale. YouTube's also going to say, hey, we got that sale. And then now you just thought you got two sales, but really it was just one. That's if you went through the native way. If you have something like Hyros or Triple Whale, you're going to be able to say, okay, only attribute this to one. So even if they clicked Facebook and YouTube, it's going to attribute to whoever the last click was. And then Facebook's going to report zero for that person, while YouTube, being the last click, is going to report one. There's going to be no double dipping. Like if you can't trust your data, then like you shouldn't spend money at all, in my opinion. Like that's just throwing money away. And you're going to scale things that shouldn't have been scaled because the over reporting problem. So
what would you do? So I have two questions. I want to play a game after you answer this question. But the first question, and I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say, but I'm curious anyways. In my situation with Empire Flippers, where our sales cycle is so long, like
Yeah,
how would you go about doing attribution with something like that? Like right now, the way I view it is it's kind of a fool's errand because, like, all right, like 90% of my traffic comes in through SEO before
right.
they buy. It usually is like 250 days before they buy or sell a business after they become an email subscriber. And they've seen this many blog posts, listened to this many podcasts, maybe watched a few videos. And at the end of the day, like when I do all the different forms of attribution I could think of, it's like, all right, this is one person. Like this is like no useful data. There was like one customer, like no insights can be gotten from me. But what are your thoughts on it?
Okay, so I'll give you two advice. One for the agency side, you probably you probably want to focus more on clients that have a shorter sales cycle to make your job easier. Now, to flip back to the answer
Don't
for
take
you,
long sales cycle. This is why Vincent will wrote ads for us, by the way, to all the listeners. I try to get him. I'm one of the clients he's rejected.
short sales cycles only. But to answer your question, I can't speak to this from experience, but I do know Hyro specifically has features that are around like calls and stuff like that. So if I understand correctly from what I remember of the documentation, is what you could do is you take the email address and phone number and import and manually tag it as a sale once the sale actually happens. And then, since they already have all that data, since they have all the visitor click history, if it matches via email or phone number or IP address, which is pretty unlikely because I'm guessing your audience typically travels a lot, so different IP addresses. But if it matches up, you're going to be able to import that sale, note when it happens, and then look at that customer journey if they have the data. So it's not perfect. It's going to, at the very
Yeah,
best, underreport. And I do mean underreport, but at least it will give you some data. But it's not going to over-report because it's kind of impossible with the way it does it, right? Because again, it relies on your importing of the sales in this case. So I hope that's
yeah.
helpful, but it is a
No, that
lot
makes
tougher when it
sense.
comes to sales cycles.
Dude, I tried to set up Wicked Reports, which is like they were around before
Right.
Hyros became a
Mm.
thing. And so I set them up, and it was complex. It was not like easy to set this thing up. And me and my marketing ops guy, we were on the call with them, and they asked us like, okay, we're at the end of the process, so what's your payment processor so we can like plug it in, and then you'll see everything. It's like, oh, it's a bank wire. They start laughing like, okay, what was your real payment processor? Like, no, it's a bank wire. People don't use Stripe to buy $1 million business. You know? And they're like,
Right.
oh my god, yeah, like,
True.
okay, your engineering team will have to create like a custom solution that we can't we can't help you.
Yeah,
Like, oh my god.
yeah, it's a tough
So it's
one.
just like one of those things. Like EF makes everything harder because of the nature
Mm.
of the business, right?
What's our payment processor? Chase Bank.
Yeah,
Like, okay, well, that's gonna be tougher than like, yeah.
yeah. I want to ask you another question here in a similar vein, almost like you consulting me. So let's play a game to see how bad Greg is at Facebook ads. I'm looking to do come up with like a testing framework, basically. So the way I've always envisioned it is you'd start at the campaign level where you have like maybe three offers you're testing to see which one gets the most attention. Then, when you get the offer that got the most clicks or whatever that you're using to measure that, you'd get three angles of that same offer. Then, from the three angles, you'd go to copy. And then from copy, you'd go to creative. Is that kind of like how you test things as well when you're doing A B split testing?
I honestly just like testing like one offer at a time because most budgets, like I'd rather just throw the entire budget at that at once instead of kind of splitting it up into a bunch of different stuff. So like if you're, are you talking from the perspective of a completely new business that's like kind of figuring out the viability of the business in general
No,
via
no, no, no.
data?
So let me explain it with a little bit more context, I guess. So let's say you're running a business is already profitable, and what you're trying to do is come up with a new, like what you did with your client, where you put the bonuses
Mm,
in front, so you change the offer, right? The offer is a little bit different now, but it's effectively
mm,
the same thing or what they were selling, but they're packaged in a
mm.
different way. So you have a different offer, and then you find the winning offer. So you're still only testing one thing at a time. You're not testing all of these things at once. You're just trying to see which way is the market going by starting at the base and then working your way up from there, right? So the way I've always viewed it
Okay, I
is
see
like the
what you're
offer
saying.
is the
Yeah.
most important, then the angle of that offer, and then you go into the copy and the creative. Because a lot of times when people talk about A/B split testing, they're like, "I changed the color from red to blue." It's like, okay, well, like that should be your lowest priority in terms of the way
Right.
I think about split testing, right? So I was curious
Mhm.
on how your methodology works with that.
Yeah, if we're talking about like a front end offer, like bonuses and stuff, but the core product you're selling is still the same, then that would just happen as a split test on the landing page level. So on the
Mm.
Facebook ads level, it's basically all the same. But if you're talking about like, oh, I include the bonuses in the ad copy itself? No. I actually only talk about the core offer, and they find out about the bonuses it's sort of a surprise on the landing page. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of there, and then you can do all your split testing there. And the benefit of that, too, to answer your question, is now you don't have to do all this stuff where, oh, well, we changed the front end offer with the bonuses. Now we got to update the ad copy and stuff like that. Like, you should really be aligning the messaging around just the core offer and trying to get, as high of a click through rate as possible to the most relevant of audience as possible for a high conversion rate. And then you could test all you want on the landing page. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And we can't have a Facebook conversation without talking about optimizing your ad costs. So, are you doing any kind of in particular strategies when it comes to the way you're bidding to lower CPC? Is there, any advice you can give to lower costs in general on ads?
So a very common thing I see almost everybody, no, not almost everybody, but a lot of advertisers do is they immediately ignore auto bids and they go for, oh, let's do manual placement. Well, it's asking me what I would like to pay per cost. Well, I would love it if I just paid for this, so I'm just gonna put this number in. And then they're like, wait, why is it not spending money? Or hey, wait, I put $30. Why is it costing me 60? It's like, well, dude, yeah, you're not literally Facebook's not gonna just literally say, "Well, since you asked so nicely for the CPA, here you go." Like for the vast majority of advertisers out there, just do auto bid. There's so much stuff you can do to optimize. Like you don't really have to mess with manual bid unless you just have a really big budget for it, and that could just be one of the tests. You're more than likely just fine with auto bid. Hell, most of my stuff does the best with auto bid. It's very rare that I actually even mess with manual bid unless that's just part of a split test just to see what works. But that's like one of the last things. That means I've already optimized everything else, and one of the last few things I could optimize for is like the bidding method. You know what I mean? So I see a lot of people will just go, oh well, manual bid seems to be the way to go. It's like, wait, what? I don't know why you would do that because odds are pretty good that you're gonna put it way too low and get no deliverability, and then you're gonna be wondering, oh, is Facebook bugged or like I'm doing something wrong? Odds are your bid's just too
Facebook
low.
ads just don't work, Vincent. That's the problem. The Facebook ads
That's
don't
the
work.
problem.
When you're doing a Facebook ad account audit, you've mentioned that you've done that a few times.
Mhm.
What are some of the metrics or KPIs you're looking for in those accounts that make you go yes or bad?
Well, that's going to be depending on every client, but return on ad spend is like the metric. So I always ask them, okay, well, what is your break even at the very least? And then what is your, if this number, then spend as much as you humanly can. And with digital products, that's basically going to be pretty darn low because, again, all of it's profit anyway. Well, ecom, it's going to range wildly depending on their cost of goods sold, obviously, but that typically is a lot higher. And so I'm just looking to see, okay, well, what is getting the return on the ad spend that you're looking for right now, what could be killed off and stuff like that, and what's worked historically. So I'm going to look for trends when I'm auditing an ad account. I'm looking to see, okay, is it a specific audience? Is it a specific angle? Is there a specific avatar or messaging that really works? And then just kind of use that if I'm running the campaigns to do a version one of everything. And then I'll think of, okay, what are some totally different directions that they've never messed with before. So with the e-commerce client that I talked about recently, where they had this really cool product, all of the creatives are super, super well produced, super studio quality, very awesome photo shoots. And I'm like, okay, well, they already got all that. They have that in the bag. They have a big team for that. I'm gonna go the completely opposite direction. I'm gonna do some that just have their product on my really cool furniture, and then I'm gonna have one that's in this product light box where it's literally just a zoom in photo of the product. And when I was running these campaigns, I tested these, quote unquote, low production value photos with their high production value. And in my test, the low production kept winning. So when I, fired them, I was like, okay, well, just a heads up, in my own test, clearly your high value stuff does well, but test out like this type of stuff too. Because in my test, this was beating out all of the high production stuff that I ever tested. Even when it was like literally the same high production stuff that has been working for you, my low production photos were working better. And I had some theories on it why that was, but at the end of the day, you don't really know why. You can't really like explain exactly the reasoning and the psychology behind it. You can make some guesses, but at the end of the day, they are guesses. It's kind of just throwing your ideas at a wall from a creative perspective and then seeing what tends to work while not always immediately and forever excluding the things that didn't work temporarily. You know what I mean? It should always be a continuous
Yeah,
process.
yeah. I like that low production stuff. That doesn't actually surprise me to see that the low production stuff was working better. I think there's something like authentic about it that makes people want to buy it more, or at least their attention is more on it because it seems authentic versus like
Mhm.
just like shouting, "I am an advertisement," you know.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said about that. When it comes to like you mentioned return on ad spend, all that kind of stuff. Is there any other kind of measures like outside of return on ad spend that you would look like on ads, like the reach, the engagement, all these other metrics that Facebook gives you? Or would you say that's more just kind of like bloat, like people shouldn't be paying too much attention to that?
Yeah, those are a lot of vanity metrics. I mean, I'm not saying it's not like something to keep an eye on, but I mean, for example, if you're seeing a campaign that's working really well with a certain cost per click that seems kind of high, then you have a campaign that you just put up with really low cost per click and similar cost click through rate and stuff like that, you can't assume that that latter one's going to do better. Like, there's no guarantee because you might have just written an ad that gets a lot of clicks, but not a lot of purchase intent. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so some people might be like, "Oh, my cost per click's too high. My cost per thousand impressions too high." It's like, okay, cool, but like, what's your return on ad spend look like? Are you happy with that? Like, I just talked to a client that spends probably $2,000 or $3,000 a day right now, and they're oddly enough really focused on cost per lead, even though they are waiting for like a sale. And like, I told them you should be optimizing for purchase and like using that as a metric and like kind of ignore the cost per lead for the most part. Like, if I ran a campaign for you and the cost per lead cost twice as much, but they close at 4 times the rate, then well, I mean, which one am I going to want to scale? Not the one that's giving me more leads. I'm going to be doing the more qualified campaign that has fewer volume but higher sales rates. So
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
people like to get into the weeds of these vanity metrics and look at cost per click, cost per initiate checkout, and all this other stuff, cost per lead and stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're optimizing for purchase, then why are you looking at that stuff? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you
Like, I'm
optimize the
not
wrong part of
optimizing
the
for the
funnel.
clicks. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not optimizing for link clicks.
I want more link clicks, not sales. That's Vincent Nguyen right there. That's the clip.
Dude,
This
it
podcast is over.
happens. It happens. It's crazy. There's this e-commerce prospect that I was like, yeah, you guys would be doing a lot better if you stopped optimizing for link clicks. They're literally only
Oh
running
yeah.
optimized for link clicks. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, yeah, we're not getting any sales, but like, it just feels weird to me. These were exact words. This just feels weird to me to be spending $2, $3 per click. And if we do optimize for conversion, we're spending that much per click. I'm like, yeah, but we can literally see your campaigns getting plenty of clicks, but literally you're losing a crap ton of money. And then she's like, yeah, but it just feels weird. She kept saying it feels weird. I'm like, you know what feels weird? You know what feels weird is you spending thousands of dollars every day and literally losing half of that and never recouping that because this is a product that people only buy once. Like, doesn't that feel weird to you? Like, I don't know. That feels weird to me. Like, it took everything in me to not be a
Oh
total jerk.
man.
I'm just like, how do I say this politely and diplomatically? Like, but I don't know, man. It's just
Uh,
you after you do this for 9 years, you see like the craziest things. You see not just independent entrepreneurs, but like agencies who have these followings and people recommend them and stuff, and then you're just like, what the heck are they doing? You could have given like someone who's never done Facebook ads before access to a Facebook ads 101 course, and they would have gotten the fundamentals right. It's like, what the heck? I have no idea
yeah.
what's going on in people's minds when they do this stuff. You know what I mean?
I think that's just like the nature of being in the game for a long period, right? Like I wouldn't say I'm the best marketer or like the best M&A guy myself, but like I am a weird blend of the two. So I've seen like both sides of this. Like I was just talking to a guy on Facebook, is like a big following in the internet marketing world in this specific niche. And he's talking about like what he did to 20x the valuation of his business. And I read about it and I was like, dude, no, you did not 20x your business. maybe you 0.3x to your business in terms of the valuation, but like nowhere near 20x. And so him and I got in on it. He like sent me a screenshot of him Googling the thing that like 20x is valuation. And the article was saying like blah blah blah, like this does do this, blah blah blah. I was like, okay, man. Because he was basically telling me like, why don't you do research? I like you obviously don't know what you're talking about. Like, dude, like I don't know. I've helped sell over 2,000 businesses, made over 78 millionaires, and built a buyer network in the billions. I guess I am easily defeated by a Google search. My bad, man. Jeez.
My bad, dude. My bad.
But
Should've
yeah, so you like some people are just like wild with how they think about things. But so before I move into the rapid fire section here with you, my friend, I wanted to ask you with everything that's going on in like both the economy wise, with new technologies coming out like ChatGPT, all this craziness is happening. Like, what are your thoughts on the future of Facebook advertising over the next, say, 1 to 5 years?
This is gonna sound like a joke or a diss, but I swear it's not. I hope this type of stuff raises the bar because I'll be honest, I'm pretty damn disgusted with how terrible a lot of advertisers treat their clients. Like, I hope that them being able to be lazy with the help of scaling and 10xing themselves through the output of AI will at least raise the bar to like a sufficient level. Because the amount of ad accounts I've seen where literally there's a freaking edit history to my fellow agency owners. I could literally checkbox your campaign and see when the last time you guys were in there. And guess what, dudes? Like almost anytime I audit an account, it's like weeks or months since you guys touched your client's ad accounts. And it's freaking disgusting. It's like, what the heck? You're getting paid this money by this client that trusted you, and you're not in there. You're not doing anything. And you like anytime someone says, "Oh, then this is like a very recent example too, is like when someone says, "Oh, I worked at this agency before, they stopped working out, so I brought in this new agency and they're just doing okay, so that's why I'm talking to you." In the back of my mind, I'm always like, I bet you what happened was they just renamed the campaigns that were already being run. And so now it says their agency name on it. And so that's the first thing I always check. And I look at the edit history, and by golly, that's what happened. 3 months ago, this new agency of yours edited the campaigns that were already failing, and they haven't done anything since. And it's like, hopefully, AI helps you guys actually do your jobs and start doing your jobs because like this stuff isn't rocket science. I've been saying this for 9 years, and this goes for any prospect that wants to hire me. Facebook ads is not wizardry, it's not magic. It's actually not even that hard. It's just get the freaking fundamentals right, and you're gonna do pretty good. But if AI makes it easier, then that's like a great thing for everybody because that raises the bar. But even with how easy it is right now, with or without AI, like, dude, agencies are just freaking dropping the ball, and it just drives me crazy, dude. Like, there are a lot of times where I've gone on calls with clients that I know I'm gonna reject already, just so I could tell them like, okay, hey, just a heads up, I'm not gonna take you on as a client, but I do have to warn you about these things when it comes to agencies. And when you hire your next agency, whoever that is, please email me because I will happily take an hour out of my day to audit them to make sure that they're actually doing their job. Because it really like pisses me off when people just take people's money and like not do their job, or even worse, do their job incompetently. So like this offer goes out to anyone listening to this. You don't have to hire me. Just let me look at your ad account, make sure that you're not getting totally screwed, and that'll make me like so happy. You know what I mean?
I mean, look, man, Vincent, if they reach out to you, they already know, even if they wanted to hire you,
I'm
you're
saying
probably
no.
not very expensive. So if they take the offer for the free audit, they already know they can't hire you.
If you ever need
But
practice in dealing with rejection, email me and I will and I will put you down
uh,
immediately.
there was so I put out a job posting for a marketing operations or marketing automation specialist, right? And I got 45 applicants, and five of them all written by ChatGPT. Like it was so
Yeah.
obvious. Like in the grand world of the digital landscape of HubSpot, like okay, no one talks like this. And then there was this one who forgot to delete ChatGPT where it said, "Certainly, I'll help you fill
Oh,
out this application." Answer here you go.
that's
Like,
great.
oh man, this is the ultimate lazy. Dear, delete the fact that ChatGPT is it's like referring to itself.
See, so for those of you listening who are like, oh, they're talking about being lazy, you could do well being lazy. I guess the PS is like, okay, at least be competent if you're gonna be lazy. You can't be lazy and incompetent. That's a pretty dangerous
That this is a
combination.
bad combo for sure.
That doesn't work. You have to weaponize laziness.
All right, my friend. So we're at the end of the podcast, the rapid fire section, where I ask you three questions and you answer as quickly as possible. Are you ready?
Yes.
If you were watching this on YouTube, then you just saw a beautiful thing that Vincent did. If you're not watching this on YouTube, what are you doing? Why are you not watching this on YouTube? Because you should definitely watch this episode to see what Vincent just did there. I'm not going to reveal it, so you have to go watch on
Wait,
YouTube.
what did I do? What did I do?
You'll see it on YouTube when you subscribe, Vincent. All right, first rapid fire question. What are the best hidden growth opportunities, in your opinion, with Facebook ads right now?
Like literally just doing the offers thing that we talked about in the beginning of the call is like just front loading whatever that core product, wherever you're sending traffic right now, just kind of add genuine bonuses that are supplemental to whatever you're selling and just give it away for free. I mean, it's just such an easy test. Obviously, I'm not saying go out and hire a film crew and like record all this crazy stuff for it. And I'm not saying also just make it a Google Doc that's just kind of crappy either. I'm saying like do sort of a middle ground where it's clearly valuable. It doesn't cannibalize sales somehow, but it just increases your conversion rates. At the end of the day, it's about conversion rates. It's about getting them to buy. And then obviously having back end offers too, if you can, to increase your average order value. Don't be complacent and just do that one thing and go, okay, well, I'll make all my money here. The exception to that though is if you're gonna do the one thing only thing, make it so damn good that there is nothing that you could really add into that and charge money for because it's such a good product. Like I have a client that is exactly that. And that's one of the reasons why I love working with them. It's a wonderful brand, a great product, and they truly throw everything at this one thing and they don't go, "Oh, well, now you got to give us another $200 to get this other thing you need." It's like, "No, if they need this thing, it all goes into this." So as a result of that, it forces creativity on the front end to sell things that are like complementary but aren't exactly that one thing that you're selling. You know what I mean? So those kinds of
Mhm.
constraints will actually force you to be a bit more creative.
What tools or resources can people use to boost the effectiveness of their Facebook ads?
So I'm not saying you have to use Hyros specifically. I'm just saying Hyros because I use that for my clients personally, and I've been using them for years. But definitely get some sort of attribution software. Make sure you go through the demo and understand how the tech works, and make sure it's set up properly. So Hyros, Triple Whale are two off the top of my head that I have experience with, but there's plenty out there. Northbeam, or actually, sorry, I kept saying Triple Whale. Triple Whale is another software. Northbeam is the one that I have experience with. But definitely do your research, talk to all of them if you want, and just get an idea of which one will work best for you. But don't like slouch on that. Don't take it for granted. Don't only rely on the native dashboard because you are likely going to have some pretty incomplete data. The exception to this is if you're doing extremely low volume and you know that every sale that you have on the sales backend, like in a Stripe or a PayPal, it's only going to be coming from Facebook ads, then yeah, you can hack it a little bit. You could just do, revenue from sales dashboard minus your expenses, then boom, net profit. But it's going to get pretty complicated pretty quickly. And the moment there's going to be other traffic sources in there and any kind of doubt, get that attribution software in there.
Yeah, I actually meant to ask you about that because I remember you telling me you don't need Hyros like right away because it is quite an expensive software. Almost all the
Yeah.
attribution software is. So I'm glad you
Yeah. It
brought up
starts
that
at 300 a
caveat.
month, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. This is the final question, the hardest question. If you do not answer this well, Vincent, this entire interview is for naught because I will not publish it. Are you ready?
Is this the one where podcasts always ask you where they can find you?
No, I just asked you the question and you failed. The answer was yes, I
Oh,
am ready.
dang it. Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for
Not sure if
publishing
you.
it. I'll ask the last question, the final question, the final bonus question here, anyways. But in your 9 years plus of working in the whole digital entrepreneurship world, what has been your funniest moment working in this business?
Funniest moment. I think, I mean, it's a little bit different, like, than what you're asking probably, but like, I have been on a lot of like, oh, what could I be doing with my life outside of Facebook ads, career wise or business wise, that might be a bit more interesting from a personal level. There's this organization out here that I'm a big fan of. I used to fundraise, or not fundraise, sorry, volunteer for them, and I donate some money to them, and I'm just a big believer in their mission. So I'm like, okay, what if I worked for them as like their program director? And so I didn't get the job because I was talking about how much of a big picture guy I was. And she's like, well, I think you have a bigger impact on like the board of directors. And so when I was telling the story, like, yeah, I just applied for this job. I didn't get it, but at least my consolation prize was like getting on the seat of board of directors, or at least being offered. My friends were like, what? You're the only person on earth I know who applied for a job, didn't get it, and then they were immediately like, "How about a seat on the board of directors instead?" And a funny story: the first meeting that I attended, this dude walks in, and I'm like, "Why do you look so familiar?" I realized he was the star of the only season of The Bachelor I've ever seen. Like he was literally a member of the board of directors, super tall, buff, good looking dude. And I'm like, why is this tall, buff, good looking dude so like familiar? And then I realized, oh, that's literally the star of The Bachelor, the one season I saw. So a lot of my funny entrepreneur stories involved me trying not to be an entrepreneur anymore prior to finally just embracing it 3 4 months ago. Like I'm probably the only entrepreneur you know that was like, yeah, things have been going well pretty much since the beginning, but I don't want to do this. And so here's a bunch of random shenanigans I'm gonna get into.
I remember this, I think, because I think you sent me like your resume. You were telling me you were going to apply for it. I was like, why do you do this? Like, I'm just so confused. I didn't realize about the board seat thing. That's like, hey, I'll come in and be your bartender. Like, how would you
Director,
like to be the CEO instead?
yeah. I mean, to be fair, my most recent actually random applying thing was for those of you familiar with the Dynamite Circle. I was the Dynamite Circle's community manager for 3 years, and that was pretty fun, pretty fulfilling for a little bit there. So they're not always 2 night excursions. It's sometimes 3 years of your life.
Yeah. I think Joe is really proud of your work at the Dynamite Circle community manager. Inside
Are
joke.
you allowed to tell that story or no?
No, no, that's not. It is very funny.
Okay, it's just an inside joke for like 5 people, maybe.
That's what brings the engagement of this podcast so high up, man. I mean,
People got to
I just
Google.
got
People can Google what's the
someone
story.
just someone tagged me in LinkedIn talking about how I was one of their favorite podcasts, and I was right next to my first million. So yeah, I'm coming for you, Sampar.
There we go.
Anyways, so we're at the end here, Vincent. A pleasure to chat with you as always, man. And for anyone out there like who does really need help with ads, Vince is a great dude. He's like one of the only people I really trust with this. So you have my wholehearted approval to reject everyone this podcast brings to you. But if someone wanted to go get rejected by you, where could they go and get like connected with you where they could pick your brain?
JustGrowthNinja.com. I don't have any social media profiles. I mean, I guess I have a LinkedIn. You go on there, but just go to growthninja.com. There's a email thingy at the bottom, and yeah, it just talks about what I do, how I do it. Only thing I haven't added on there was the fact that I guess I'm apparently good at YouTube ads now. Spent like 7 grand a day on that for one of my clients. So yeah, I guess I manage a couple 100,000 on YouTube ads. So if you need help with YouTube ads, I guess I'm able to do that too now.
So your guy said with the confidence of a true marketer.
I guess I don't know. Maybe get a couple quotes.
Most marketing agency owners are like good salespeople, bad marketers. You're like the opposite. Like you're not that good at sales, but you're just good at marketing.
But it's just I'm just so sincere about it that it just somehow works. I guess I don't know. I'm like I don't know. You can fucking have if you want. I don't give a crap. Like who knows?
I love it. Well, man, we'll put all those links in the show notes if anyone wants to connect with you. Highly recommend it. Vincent is a really cool dude. I've known him for almost a decade at this point, so someone I highly trust. And Vincent, thanks for coming on, man. This was an absolute blast.
Thank you. And I'm looking forward to saying no to everyone who reaches out.
Perfect. We'll end it there. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it got you inspired at all the different things that are happening in this industry. And of course, if you just want to buy a highly profitable business, you can always go to empireflippers.com/marketplace, or maybe you want to make an exit of your highly profitable business, and you could go to empireflippers.com/sell your site. I've been your host, Greg. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave a review, give us a like, a follow, share it across social media. Talk to you all soon. See you on the next episode.